Hello everybody and welcome to my Afterthoughts video, this time regarding the movie E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Wow, I have to say this movie really took me by surprise. I had no idea that this movie would be so super sad. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. We were bawling our eyes out, you know. I expected some kind of very light-hearted movie, a lot of fun, you know, a lot of laughs. And yes, there was some of that too, but oh my gosh, the emotional part, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I liked it, you know, but I was very surprised by it. I didn't think it would be so emotional, but I have to say, I really liked this movie. And one reason is because all the elements that I like, that I think make a fantastic movie, all came together. You know, you had amazing story, you had amazing writing, you had amazing acting, you had an amazing production design, everything, and of course an amazing soundtrack to wrap it all up. You know, as a big package, this movie was brilliant. It was pretty much perfect. I loved it. So I'm so glad we finally saw that movie. Now, another thing I liked about the movie was all the different themes or subjects of the movie that you could find. You know, I mean, you had everything from loyalty and friendship and family and let me cross the street real quick, friendship and acceptance and love, of course. Everything was represented in this movie, and that was just fantastic. So 2 thumbs up for that movie. Now, what did I like the most about the movie? I would say hands down, what I liked the most was E.T. itself. You know, him as a creature or him as a character was just astonishing. It was great. Not only, you know, it made me think, if you would approach a designer and you would tell them, hey, could you design some kind of alien creature that the audience is supposed to fall in love with? You would definitely not think of E.T. right away, you know. You would not create some kind of ugly creature with a melon head and a weird turtle face and a strange long neck like a giraffe, you know. That's not what comes to your mind. You would start designing something warm and fuzzy, something yeah, with big eyes but fur, maybe like a cat, you know, something cute and adorable. But no, they went exactly in the other direction, and I thought that was just brilliant. They designed this ugly creature that, you know, at first seemed ugly, but then if you looked closer and you saw his gentle face and his gentle eyes, and you started falling in love with it, you know, and I thought that was just brilliant. Very well done. And then of course, E.T. itself, what it represented to us was also amazing, and that's one of the reasons why I loved E.T. so much, is because, you know, E.T. was clearly a very gentle creature, very vulnerable, and of course very alone. And I think that we human beings, we relate to that on some level, you know. I think all of us at one point, either as a child or maybe as a young adult or a, you know, teenager, or even now being grown up, we experience moments of being alone, feeling outcast. We don't really feel that we belong, you know, and that's exactly how E.T. felt. And for us as the audience, we wanted nothing more than E.T. go home again and belong again, because then, subconsciously speaking, we as the audience, we also feel complete. We also feel that we belong again. And I think that's one of the reasons why this movie worked so well. I mean, there's so many different aspects to it, but that's why E.T. worked so well, because we all related to this poor little scared creature who just wanted to go home, you know. And that brings me to my favorite moment of the movie, although there were at least a dozen favorite moments. One moment that still sticks out, if I think back, is when this little Drew Barrymore character looks at E.T. and says, "Do you want to call somebody?"
Outer space. You want to call somebody?
That was just such an endearing moment, and there are so many of those moments in this movie. It's really amazing. But if I have to pick my favorite sequence, that would definitely be the iconic scene of, you know, when E.T. tries to explain to the kids that he wants to phone home. This whole sequence when he explains that, that was just mind-blowing. It was so heartwarming, so touching, so relatable. This poor creature just wants to go home, and when he pointed with his finger to the universe, E.T. phone home, that is just, I can see why this has become such an iconic moment, and probably one of the most recognized moments in movie history, even, I can say, because I even knew that moment or that sentence, even I haven't seen the entire movie, you know, so amazing. This movie really had it all. And of course there is more. One could also talk about the fact that E.T. and Elliot were mentally and physically connected to each other. That was amazing. Or how unbelievably sad it was when they both got sick and they were dying. I mean, oh my gosh, this was just so heart-wrenching, you know. Or one could talk about how amazing it was when the kids took off with the bicycles and flew over the city, you know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff one could talk about, but you know, you saw the movie. I don't really have to elaborate on that, just to say all this stuff was amazing. And then of course then there's some trivia stuff, you know, for example, that the movie is listed as $10.5 million budget, and it made worldwide around 800 millions. So that's amazing, even though those numbers, one has to take it with a grain of salt, because those numbers are always a little bit manipulated, you know, they don't include marketing costs and all that stuff. But it doesn't matter, because the movie was a worldwide success, and so around $800 million, so a huge success. And one more trivia thing comes to mind with those chocolate candy, because Spielberg or the company intended to have M&Ms. You know, Elliot would use the M&M candy to lure E.T. into the house, but then Mars, who owns M&Ms, they looked at the creature, they looked at E.T. and thought, nah, that thing is just too ugly, kids are not gonna like it, you know, we don't want our candy to be associated with such an ugly creature. So they turned it down, you know, and that's why we now see Reese chocolate candy being used in the movie. And of course, once the movie came out, their sales just went through the roof, I think like 300% more. So that was a huge marketing mistake by Mars. But you know, if you don't have the vision, then you lose out on opportunities like that. So that was quite interesting. Also, I think E.T. was actually the movie that holds the record for longest theatrical release. I think this movie was in the theaters for over a year. I mean, this is just mind-blowing. You know, nowadays you have a movie come out, maybe stays in the theaters for like 2 weeks the most, you know. And I could talk about why that is, but maybe I do that another time. But that's just amazing. Over a year theatrical release. Wow. And then also, of course, the studio and Spielberg, they were talking about doing a sequel, because the first one was so successful, and the sequel was supposed to be about, you know, exploring E.T.'s world, which would be, of course, very, very interesting to see. But there's also a great risk involved, because the sequel is not going to be as good as the first movie. I mean, E.T. was perfect, you know, how can you top that? And if the sequel is not as good, then that kind of reflects on the first movie a little bit, and it leaves a sour taste in your mouth, you know. And then also it seems, if the sequel is not very good, it seems this was just a money-grubbing attempt, you know, and that's not very favorable for the people either. So ultimately, even though the idea sounds interesting, ultimately Spielberg decided against making a sequel, and I think that was a very good decision, because E.T. is as good as it gets. And you know, I mean, if the sequel would be beyond brilliant, beyond genius, then yeah, sure, I'll watch it, you know. But I think the way it is right now is good. We all love and enjoyed E.T., the Extra-Terrestrial, and I'm so happy we saw it. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Thanks for being here, and we will see you in the next one. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.